Welcome back to Any Recapped. Today we will recap Zetman. Let's begin. Lab-created beasts called players fight in an underground arena as the elite class watches them for fun. However, soon the beasts gain human will and escape into society, ensuing unrest. One of the fellow scientists, Goro Kanzaki, also escapes despite Mitsugai Imagi trying to stop him with a lab-created baby. Years later, strange killings are still rampant. As an inspector investigates a crime scene, Mitsugai Imagi passes by in a car, urging the need to find the baby soon. Unknown to them, Goro, now called Jia-chan, has disguised himself as a homeless man raising the baby, Jin, by himself and teaching him the importance of saving lives for justice. Jin has grown into a cunning, strong kid who goes around helping people for reward. He stumbles upon a lady being harassed and strikes a deal for 10,000 yen before thrashing the men badly. Just then, his other two friends, Kuga and Konoha Imagi, rush in, complaining about why he didn't call them before dragging him away. As Kuga lectures Jin, he shows them the strange ring on his hand, telling them it's an angel ring. Somewhere, a strange, menacing man, Seiji, incites the player that has been killing people to do more. Nevertheless, the woman Akemi later finds Jin rewarding him while also giving him her card. Horrifyingly, Jin returns home to find everyone slashed to death, and his beloved Jai-chan perishes in his arms. Innocently, Jin wanders around with Jai-chan in a trolley, asking for help desperately and even being cruelly denied by a doctor. He tries calling Kuga and Konoha, but is unaware their father has crushed their phones, forbidding them to hang out with homeless Jin. Defeated and confused over how to process his overwhelming emotions, Jin ends up at the hostess bar where Akemi works. The two end up in a hospital where she almost leaves him to the kind inspector, only for her heart to melt, and she offers to take him home. At her place, she cleans and bathes the grief-stricken boy as Jin, calling her Obasan, finally breaks down, eased by her mother-like warmth. However, Ji-chan's death news has reached Mitsugai and he orders to collect Ji's body immediately. Meanwhile, Jin starts living under Akemi's care. They stroll one night as she sweetly yaps about shopping when a slashing whip-like tongue injures her. They turn around and find a player. Naturally, Jin tries protecting Akemi, but she jumps in, taking a fatal hit. As she collapses, the man morphs into a beastly lizard, jumping onto Jin. Strangely, Jin's body pulses with immense energy as he whips the lizard into a wall and kills it before collapsing unconscious. Seiji appears, telling Jin to grow up quickly before leaving the matter to a white-clad being, the Sweeper, who clears up the player's body with his blade. Years later, Seiji appears before a fire player, inciting him to put his unruly powers to use, while Kuga Imagi, now a teen, still dreams of fighting for justice and missing Jin. Nevertheless, at Imagi Corp, his father asks about the undergoing Undertown redevelopment project and is reminded of the grand event at 6. Unknown to him, Konoha and her mother secretly do volunteer work. As they hand out food, a brawl breaks out. Though Konoha helplessly tries to stop them, a guy suddenly appears, stemming the chaos. Konoha immediately recognizes the ring on his hand and calls out to Jin, who smiles back at her, happy that she's still helping people. Konoha's glad to see him again. Jin's still a kind soul who protects people from violence and a hero for the homeless. Nevertheless, Konoha and her mother are reminded of the event by Hayami as Jin returns to Akemi, who now runs a creep stall. At the event, as the crowd cheers and fans over Kuga, Konoha runs into Mitsugai, who makes her feel rather unsettled as she gets an uneasy flashback. Behind her, Kuga expresses his justice-loving ambitions on stage, making the crowd laugh. Later, Konoha tells Kuga how she found Jin, making him jump in excitement. He then shows her his new gear. With the help of 3 others in the company, he has developed tools and gears to help them restore their patrols like old times and save people. With that, they set out to catch the recent fire-creating criminal. Unknown to them, Jin is also on the criminal's tail. On their way, Kuga rubs in the fireproof gel as the radar beeps with the location of the fire breakout. However, Jin has already engaged with the fire player. As Kuga arrives at the rumbling building, he finally runs into Jin. Together, they set out to catch the culprit like old times when they come across a family stuck in the flames with the mother unconscious. Kuga suggests saving the children, given that they won't be able to save all, but Jin denies it. Stuffing them in ample cushions, he throws them down the hole, reasoning that life without a parent is cruel and they're better dead together. He then jumps in after them. With that, the building crumbles, forcing Kuga to escape through the suspended wire Konoha put outside. However, he falls, barging into a room and finds the family alive at the bottom. Jin was prioritizing saving them all along. However, it's Kuga who gets the praise as a savior hero. Back in the fire, Jin reclashes with the player, transforming into his player body, Zetman. Using one of Kuga's fire-extinguishing tools, he kills it for good. As the player collapses, so does the building. Outside, Kanama rushes to the rubble as Jin collapses and picks up Jae-chan's necklace. Later, as Koga gets lectured for his actions, Jin wakes up in Mitsugai's clutches. To his horror, he sees a player similar to him chomping into Akimi's limp body. Meanwhile, Koga is frustrated about how he took Jin's praise and his father utilized it for the company's image and profits by brandishing his excellent tools and presenting him as a hero. Koga realizes that Jin always fought to save people while he only fought to stop criminals. At the labs, Jin angrily bellows, seeing Akimi's limp figure. Mitsugai and his team watch him from behind the glass as Jin morphs into Zetman, jumping onto the clone Zetman player and killing it. However, Jin's player body starts disintegrating. As Mitsugai grows confused, Jae-chan, whose head Mitsugai preserved for his brain data, informs them that he'll have to kill a player to stop disintegration. Just then, Akimi's clone walks out as Mitsugai hopes Jin will kill her in place of a player. However, Jin can't, causing them to shoot Akimi. As Akimi collapses, Jin transforms into 99% human and loses Zetman from shock. From the computer, Jae-chan cackles. He has tricked them into turning Jin back to human and not letting Zetman fall into Mitsugai's hands. Meanwhile, Koga is introduced to Mayu, a big fan of his. She shyly blushes as he kindly shakes hands with her. Back at home, Kanova shows him Ji-chan's necklace. Koga hugs her, expressing his frustrated desire to establish justice, just like his favorite anime hero, Alphys, making her remark that his justice seems praise-seeking before leaving. Meanwhile, Jin's taken to the collapsed undertown and brought before a sculpture of a player's head with a massive ring. Introducing him to the place players were born, Mitsugai tells him that his angel ring's a ring of fire, which converts him into a player. He narrates how they had created players under the Image Corporation for profits, but once they escaped, Mitsugai soon realized his mistake and created Zetman, aka Jin, a hunter player, to take out the rough ones. He reveals that Jae-chan's Jin's birth father. He had refused to raise him as a monster and betrayed the corporation, escaping with him as a baby. Over the years, Mitsugai had tried to remake Zetman but failed. Just as Jin protests, his ring resonates with the sculpture, striking him with pain, a hopeful proof that Zetman still lives within him and can be revived. With Jin refusing, Mitsugai questions if he'd not want to protect Akimi against Rouge players. He then takes him to the Creep's stall, showing him that Akimi's still alive and the one shot was just a fake clone that triggered him into becoming Zetman. Jin tearfully realizes that he has to cut ties to keep Akimi safe. By chance, Kanova runs into Akimi at the stall and learns of Jin's absence. However, Akimi tells her to keep Ji-chan's necklace, saying she's more likely to meet Jin than her. Meanwhile, Jin agrees to become Zetman on the condition that they'll make Akimi's slashed face pretty again and reunite her with her child, whom she lost custody of. Back in the Undertown, Seiji picks a piece of the burst ring. The strange murders are still at large. The inspector investigates yet another death, this time committed by a sand player. He wonders about the nature of these criminals. Like always, Jin often gets behind bars for his bouts to save people. The kind inspector bails him out, scolding him to be careful, and blushes when Jin replies, saying he's grateful for him being there when he was a kid. Somewhere, the sand player assaults another victim and is spotted by a girl. Chased, the girl ends up at the construction site where the labs are and where Jin now lives. However, the security lets her be given that it was one of Jin's conditions. Since Jin agreed, they have been doing all kinds of assessments to revive Zetman within him, including giving him a gum to chew to stimulate Zetman and clothes that won't tear down upon transforming. However, security also spots Konoha and her mother doing volunteer work nearby. Back at Amaji, Kuga is still confused about his ideals. However, he realizes that the three guys that developed his tools are ready to extend help. Also, Hayami expresses his support and informs him that he's ordered the guys to develop something using military assistance. Meanwhile, at the site, Konoha once again runs into Jin, who ignores her, considering he can't put her in danger. Hence, she's unable to return the necklace. She tells Kuvagu reasons that he has to get strong before meeting Jin. Jin enters his room to find the chased girl hiding them. As they sit down, she introduces herself, but Jin suddenly smells out the players and rushes out, telling her to stay put. The stupid girl doesn't listen and steps out, taking the sand player's bait. Just as they pin her, Jin appears. The security around immediately focuses on him monitoring his vitals and Zetman. Asking for the 10,000 yen classically, Jin thrashes the men, asking them if all of them are players, just as the security knocks the girl out, preventing her from witnessing the situation. Before Jin, the sand player starts morphing into his beastly form, making one of his men warn him that the sweeper's coming and running away. Ignoring them, he transforms as Jin chews on the gum to activate Zetman. As they fight, the security and Mitsugai watch in anticipation, waiting for Zetman to come out. Soon Jin's levels show that he's become 100% Zetman, but the figures keep growing as Jin transforms into a white Zetman. Lunging at the sand player, he rips him in half, unaware that the main piece of him, the head, has escaped. Since the player is not dead, Zetman starts disintegrating again but carries the girl to safety. Luckily, the sweeper gets to the player for breaking the EVOL rules, killing it and causing Jin to return to human form. However, Jin isn't spared and the sweeper comes after him, stabbing his blade into Jin's back as Mitsugai watches in horror. The sweeper soon realizes that Jin's special and questions him when Seiji drops from nowhere after ripping the cameras off. He tells the sweeper that Boss would be angry if he killed Zetman, making the sweeper leave. In his menacing style, he tells Jin that he's been waiting for him to grow. However, he disappears before security arrives. Mitsugai then reveals the sweepers from EVOL, a band of players that keep to their human form and dislike being associated with Rouge players. Those who break EVOL's rules are killed. At school, as Konoha's friend teases her over a boy, she tells her she has to stay back for PE. Nevertheless, the girl tells her name to Jin Tanaka and continues to stay at his place out of fear as they keep getting into childish bickering. Meanwhile, Hayami reveals what they've been working on at Kuga, a custom-made armor like Alpha's. However, Kuga disagrees with its perfection, objecting that the body's not white, and neither does he hold the Justice emblem like Alpha's. Believing in the guise to make it perfect, he leaves but expresses his gratitude to Hayami. Outside, as Kuga is stopped by a strange man. Upon maintaining secrecy about his identity, Kuga tries walking away when the man offers him an opportunity to be a hero. However, he'll give him an evaluation test. With that, he shows him a video of the instructor shoving his sister in the pool at PE and makes him choose between saving her or 3 girls will perish tonight. Confused and scared, Kuga rushes to save his sister only to find her all fine when the 3 girls are killed brutally. That night at a bar, the man pays the instructor for the job, but she expresses her wish to stay human, making him criticize her as a player. As the people around criticize the man for being extreme for discriminating between players and humans, the barista tells him to cooperate, revealing that he's the boss of EVOL. The next morning, Kuga receives a call from the man telling him that he's failed the test and that the next opportunity will come soon. Though Kuga tries to ask Hayami to get the police involved, he reasons they can't since they have no proof. He then gets a call from Konoha asking him to come to see Jin, but he irritatingly shuts it down. Meanwhile, the 2 escaped minions of Sandman are incited to kill Jin by Seiji. As they leave, the strange man seems to be with Seiji on this. Nevertheless, Konoha and her friend go to find Jin to return his necklace, only for Konoha's heart to grow a bit broken seeing him with Tanaka. However, behind him, the 2 girls are attacked by the minions. Jin smells them and rushes to find himself face to face with the reverted player, only to realize that he's forgotten the gum. Meanwhile, Kuga is presented with the perfect version of Alphys when he receives a call from Konoha, shrieking for help. Immediately, he jumps into the new gear and, despite Hayami protesting otherwise, leaves to save Konoha in desperation to be a hero. Jin clashes with the player, but, having no gum, he's unable to transform into Zetman. However, he soon realizes what it means to protect someone and confidently lunges at the player. Meanwhile, poor Konoha is brutally traumatized as the man transforms into a horrific player, yelling at her to see what her family has created. As Kuga makes his way toward them, Jin's Zetman level finally starts elevating, and he lands a good blow on the player before hopping off to save Konoha. At his place, Tanaka thinks about her sour family and wishes to stay with Jin forever. She wonders if she's fallen for Jin when suddenly, a horde of creatures crawl out into the room. Back outside, Jin makes it to Konoha, but unluckily, his Zetman elements stop growing. Jin strangely finds Konoha and the friend alone. Embarrassed, Konoha asks to leave her be, only for Jin to caress her face lovingly. Once he tries to save her, the other player shows itself, piercing him through and almost beating him dead when somebody shoots the creature off. Jin looks up to find Kuga in his justice suit and tells him to save Konoha first, who stopped moving from her injuries. Reporting to Hayami and the guys at the headquarters about the monsters, Kuga asks Hayami how many can fit on the jet. However, Hayami tells him to leave Jin. Upon Kuga protesting, he asks him a tricky question on who he will value to save in a sticky situation, making Kuga realize that it's another one of those hero evaluation tests. Injured, Jin yells at Kuga to go with the girls. Kuga sends the girl off and tells Jin that he got the power to help people like him before hopping away. Afterward, Jin weakly steps down to find homeless men waiting downstairs to help him in return for his kindness. Though Jin tells them to leave, they refuse, deciding to take the foes on even if they are monsters. Meanwhile, the player waits for Jin to come out, warning that if he doesn't, he'll leave the homeless men to the monster's mercy. The security at the site also grows worried at Jin's sudden absence, but Mitsugai reasons that he's preparing to transform into Zetman. Back outside, as the homeless men get ready to face the creatures, Kuga as Alphys jumps in, shooting the critters off and telling them to run away. The security notices him. However, Jin is immensely injured and waiting to transform into Zetman when CG appears and kicks him. He says he's a far more important guy than Eviola before bringing out a nail-like object made of the ring pieces and ceramics. He stabs it into Jin's chest before taking a seat to enjoy the show as Jin squirms and yells in pain. His body starts morphing into an exceptionally strong Zetman, this time red and black at its full potential. A massive blast shudders the city around at Jin's transformation as Mitsugai watches his levels spike. Zetman is finally complete. Thank you for watching. Leave a like and subscribe for more recaps.